here today for Families Matter, St. Lucie Public Schools Parenting Guide. We are excited to be your hosts. My name is Rebecca Benson. I'm a life skills parent educator with Student Services.
Hi again. I'm Dejan Jackson, Family and Community Outreach Administrator on special assignment for St. Lucie Public Schools. The focus of our show today is to discuss speech and language.
I'm so excited.
Such an important topic.
The purpose, I need some speech support. The purpose of Families Matter, St. Lucie Public Schools Parenting Guide is to give parents and families information about the resources found within our local community. The resources shared could be in the form of people connected to St. Lucie Public Schools, like school counselors, district support personnel, or educators on your child's campus. Or the resources could be found in our St. Lucie Public School website. And it could be in the form of local community agencies that help your child achieve success. You play a pivotal role in the life of your child or children. And as always, our aim is to support you. Today, our purpose is to give you tools and resources to support your family with speaking and listening.
Families, we have a wonderful guest with us today. Please welcome ESE Program Specialist Jennifer Carey. She's a wonderful speech and language pathologist, and we are so excited to have her. Can you share with us, Jen, what your role is and how you serve the families and community of St. Lucie Public Schools?
Yes, thank you for having me today.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. I'm Program Specialist for the Speech, Language, and Deaf and Hard of Hearing programs. And May is National Speech Language Hearing Month.
That's awesome.
Yes. Well, we are so happy to have a month.
Yes.
And so for the month of May, we try to educate families and teachers about the importance of speech, language, and hearing development and how those impairments can impact children.
And I would like to say Jen is just a phenomenal leader. I've worked with her when I was in the classroom. She does so great with her when she was serving little friends, and she just does so great serving her speech and language pathologist. So I'm so excited to have you. So let's dive right in. What does it mean when we say speech, and then what does it mean when we say language, and how are they the same and how are they different? Because I know that it often gets confused and intermixed.
Yes, we interchange SLP or speech and language. And
Yes, they're very often confused. So think of speech as how something sounds when it comes out of somebody's mouth. If somebody says a W for an R and they say wabbit instead of rabbit, if somebody repeats words, phrases, or sentences, then that would be stuttering. Or if the quality of someone's voice is hoarse or harsh, all of those encompass speech. Language is listening and speaking. So we use our listening comprehension skills to understand what a person says. We use our oral expression skills, or speaking, so that we can produce words, phrases, and sentences to communicate with others.
Wonderful.
So we know that language development is huge from birth to age 5 and beyond. What are some milestones parents should expect to see from birth to 5? Because you buy that book, What to Expect When Expecting, right? And so you look for those physical milestones like when walking and now when talking. So what should parents expect?
One of the biggest milestones for parents to look out for is when their child turns 2. They should be able to produce 50 words. Now, a lot of parents teach sign language, which I did as well. Those 50 words can include signs and words combined. Your child should be able to produce 2-word phrases like want, drink, and should be able to follow simple directions such as give me the ball.
Wonderful. And what are some speech and language milestones to watch for in elementary school? Because we know early intervention is so key, and we'll get into that more later too.
Early intervention is key. So by the end of kindergarten, your child should be able to answer basic WH questions. They should be able to retell a story or tell what happened to them at school that day. That's very important. They should also be able to follow 1 to 2 simple step directions, and their speech should be 75 to 80% intelligible. So not perfect, but pretty close. By the end of 1st grade, an English-speaking student should be able to produce all consonant sounds except for the voiceless TH, like in think. And then sometimes the voiced TH, like in the, and the R are still developing in first grade.
I know with my little friend at home, he doesn't have his two front teeth, so that TH sound, we're working on it.
Yes.
So no, it is always a work in progress, and having a great model as parents of those correct sounds is key. So Jen has shared great resources with us that captures these milestones, and we will share those resources on our Families Matters website.
Now, if families are observing that their children are not meeting the milestones that you talked about from birth to 3, what are some suggestions for those families?
So if you're concerned about your child's speech or language skills, birth to 3, I recommend you speak to their pediatrician, talk about the developmental milestones at that yearly visit, and then a pediatrician can make a referral, or you yourself as a parent can go through early steps, which in the state of Florida is Easter seals.
Great tip. So what should families do if they observe their children not meeting those milestones from the ages of 3 to 5?
So by the ages of 3 to 5, your child could be screened by fiddlers. And so we have a local fiddler's office, and you can call and ask for a screening for speech, language, motor, cognitive skills, everything available. If your child doesn't pass that screening, then your child will be scheduled for an evaluation. At that evaluation, speech language pathologist will evaluate your child and determine if their speech or language skills are within the average range or if there's some significant weaknesses. If your child meets the Florida Department of Eligibility criteria for speech or language, because they're different, then an IEP or an individualized education plan will be developed. And what's great about that IEP for ages 3 to 5 is that follows them into the school system, into public school, into kindergarten, and the whole process is seamless. So it's amazing to have that early IEP.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And to start kindergarten ready to go with those supports in
Yes.
place.
So for more information on fiddlers, please refer to our episode last month on WLX Horizon, where we talked about all of the free resources through our Florida Diagnostic Learning Resource System, otherwise known as Fiddlers.
What should parents do for their children kindergarten through 12th grade when it comes to speech and language?
That's a great question. So in a kindergarten or any school age grade, I would suggest that the parent speaks to their child's teacher.
Absolutely.
The teacher is the #1 resource for how the child is developing and would know if the student's skills are commensurate or the same with the other students in the class. If the teacher sees weaknesses, then the teacher will refer the child to the problem-solving team. At that problem-solving team meeting, the team could decide to do a speech and language screening. If the child had a speech screening and the speech sounds were not developmentally appropriate or the child wasn't intelligible, then the team would move forward with a consent for a speech evaluation. Now thinking about language, because like we said, they're different. If the child's language skills are not developmentally appropriate, the team will recommend interventions in the area of need. We want to see, will the student make progress when provided with scientific research-based interventions in a small group? We don't want to wait for a child to fail, so we want to provide these interventions. If your child does not make adequate progress when given these rich interventions, then the team would look to getting a consent for a language evaluation. After that evaluation, the team will bring the parent back, review all of the data, review the evaluation results, and then determine if the student meets eligibility for the speech or language impaired program.
Now, I've been, in my former life, before we had this wonderful job, I started as a kindergarten teacher, and I've been through each of those steps, the PST, the intervention, the eligibility, and it can be daunting and overwhelming as a parent, but really, again, trust your teacher, trust the team, because they really want to provide all the support that they can for your child to be successful. So really, again, lean into communication with your child, have that great two-way with your child's teacher, and you can't go wrong.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I would suggest, seeing this whole process in the school, is to make notes of things that you have questions about, that you have
absolutely.
concerns about, not only in the academic setting, but in social settings as well. So that when you come to the table, you're prepared to ask those questions and see if you're seeing some of the same things.
Absolutely.
So that definitely helps guide the process.
Now, if found eligible based on the evaluation, what are the next steps?
So the next step would be the team has 30 calendar days to develop an individualized education plan, or IEP, that will address your child's weaknesses for speech or language, and then provide therapy services based on those goals.
Wonderful.
So with all of that, what happens if the child is not found eligible for services? Does it just stop right there?
Absolutely not. So if a child is not found eligible, then the speech language pathologist can give the teacher and the parent strategies to use at home or in the classroom based on those relative weaknesses. And then the book is never closed. If a student's not eligible and then starts to develop some difficulties learning or speaking, then the team can certainly come back and look to see if the child does need additional supports in the future.
That's good to know.
Oh, yes,
So what do speech and language therapy small group sessions look like, and what should parents expect?
So speech and language small group sessions are usually pretty fun. We, as an SLP, we usually have a group of about 5 students, and depending on their individual needs, the groups last approximately 30 minutes and are held a couple times a week. During that session, the SLP will address each student's individual weaknesses, and we learn to communicate usually through play-based fun activities. So therapy is usually a fun time, and most students love coming.
Oh no, I can definitely relate to that. I went to speech and language or speech therapy when I was younger. I loved it. There was Treasure Box. I'm pretty sure I rigged it every
Did you
time so
now?
I could get. Don't, Savalino, I loved coming to you. I definitely took advantage of the Treasure Box. Don't tell my mom. But I loved it. It was so fun. Now, do I still get a little nervous sometimes making the R sounds, as you saw earlier at the beginning of the show? Yes, but she gave me the skills needed, so thank you. Yeah, great SLPs in St. Lucie Public Schools.
Absolutely. So how will parents be informed of their child's progress in these sessions?
So we will provide a quarterly progress report that is provided every time the child receives a report card. And then if a parent has questions outside of that, they could always email their child's SLP. I recommend email versus a phone call because we are always on the move, picking up students from class to class to class. So email is much easier.
So in my experience, I've had some students at my previous schools that may not be verbal communicators after multiple interventions have been tried, and we've implemented assistive technology. Can you talk to us about what that is like?
Of course. So assistive technology, or AT, is any item, piece of equipment, or product system, whether acquired commercially or developed or handmade, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve a student's functional capabilities for a student with disabilities. There's a wide range of assistive technology, from low tech to high tech. Low tech can be as simple as a highlighter, a visual schedule, a reading guide to help a student be able to keep their place. Or high tech, such as an iPad with a communication app that a student who is limited verbal might use to communicate, or a student with highly unintelligible speech might need to use that app to communicate.
Now, you've given us a few examples. Could you dive a little deeper and give us a few more about the assistive technology?
Yes, so we are very fortunate that we are a Microsoft district. We have amazing tools that are available every single school. So if a student is struggling to decode, they could use text-to-speech software, which is Immersive Reader. And when a student is struggling to decode in the classroom, they use these little decodable books that the student can read. However, the student needs to be exposed to grade level text, grade level vocabulary, and so that text to speech software helps the student be able to be exposed to that. If a student is struggling to write, then we have Microsoft Dictation, which is speech to text software, and it helps the student be able to dictate into the computer to be able to write. Just like we use our phones and say Siri, and it types out a text for us.
I use that tool maybe a little too often. Always needs to be hands-free. And that technology is so huge. My kids love listening to audiobooks, and they love also looking. They love to listen to it in the car, and they love to look at the words on the screen as it plays. So it's just so great because then language is, they're hearing it, they're seeing it, and it's just so great for all those language skills. So.
And you know, when we think students are, or kids are looking at video games and all, they're looking and listening and reading those closed captioning. So that again is helping develop the skills needed to be successful.
Absolutely. Now, many of these tools are used as accommodations for students during everyday learning and assessment measures.
Now, if you have specific questions for your child's needs, please go back to your IEP team, your ESC specialist at your child's school, and most importantly, your child's teacher.
Absolutely. Yep. So you've given us a couple tips, but I know you have more. What are tips for families at home to support speech and language development?
I'm glad you asked. I have a huge toolbox. So my number one recommendation for families is to limit screen time. I know it's hard. We all have our phones. We have that computer in our back pocket. But when a child is on the screen, either a phone, an iPad, or TV, it's not two-way communication. It's only one way. They're listening. So it's very important to limit screen time. My other suggestions are having conversations. Have conversations in the car. Narrate everything you're seeing around you. Have conversations at dinner time. Read to your child or read together. When you finish the book, ask simple WH questions. Ask who, what, when, where. Have your child retell the story. That's a very important skill. If your child's having difficulty saying speech sounds, like they might say a T for a C sound. So they say, I want a tootsie. That's really cute.
It is cute.
So cute.
But if we say back to your child, here's your tootsie, we're reinforcing an incorrect sound. So we want to kind of use that active listening or rephrasing and say, here's your cookie. How does your cookie taste? Do you want another cookie? And the reasoning for doing that is because if a student can't say a sound, we don't want to try to force or demand them to say it. They'll just get frustrated. So if parents rephrase, that's the best strategy.
I have to work on that a lot at home because my little guy always says, "Wook, mommy, wook," and it's so sweet, and I really just want to say,
cute.
"I'm looking," but I do my best to say, "I am looking." Yes, so those are great tips. And the screen time is huge. We've talked about that before on the show. I like to say technology is a tool, so use it when you absolutely have to. Like if you have to get dinner on the table, putting an educational show on is great, or if you're going to have a show, watch together. There's no, earlier our pre-K friends said, no better app than your lap.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
If you're going to use technology, do it together or keep it very limited, and also monitor what you're showing, because there's some great educational shows out there.
Yes, and I know you as a kindergarten teacher talk about the foundational skills that you have helped develop, and I know that as a former intermediate grade teacher, 5th grade teacher forever, I know that I oftentimes relied on the skills that our speech and language friends would bring to the table, and our 3rd grade students, when they're taking a look at that for the art and science of reading, there are skills that are put in place. So all of the tips and the tools that you have provided today really help our families be successful with their child.
Yeah, with everything. Speech is everything.
Yes, it is.
So families, well, first, Jen, thank you so much. I am just so glad that you were able to join us today. I don't know if you can say "Go Gators." We have our nice
Yes.
Go Gators. So we've gone. Oh, yes, we are. Yes, we've gone over a ton in today's show, and we hope you have learned more about speech and the language resources. And if you find yourself in need of more help, please reach out. Our aim is to be the guide on the side for the many resources found in our community.
Once again, Rebecca, we have had a great
It might be my favorite.
We want to say a very special thank you to our resident expert, Jennifer Carey. And if you have missed any of our shows, please tune in to WLX Horizon to watch it, catch up, and feel connected. Check out St. Lucie Public Schools' social media outlets for our next show. Next month, we are dedicating our show to ESE Basics. It's going to be a great show.
Always is. Remember, all families matter in St. Lucie Public Schools.